No one believed it at first. A bear playing the piano? Must be fake, edited, a prank. But the footage was real. A grainy security camera from an old cabin in the mountains showed a young bear gently tapping the keys of a dusty upright piano, not smashing it, not growling, but playing with a strange, deliberate calm. When the video went viral, people laughed. Some mocked. Others were stunned. But for wildlife researcher Ana Rivera, it wasn't funny, it was familiar. Years earlier, she'd rescued a malnourished bear cub during a wildfire. That cub had been gentle, unusually curious, and obsessed with sounds. When she left him in a sanctuary, she never imagined he'd remember. Now, years later, the world was watching, and she was certain that bear was hers. What followed was a journey that stunned scientists, moved millions, and changed everything we thought we knew about memory, music, and bears. The wind whistled through the cracks in the old log cabin as Marcus Lyle shoved the creaky door open. He hadn't been here in months. Nestled deep in the woods of western Montana, the place was more memory than home, a rustic, dust-covered escape from his busier life in Missoula. But something was off this time. Snow had fallen lightly the night before, yet bear tracks crisscrossed the porch. They led directly to the front door, and oddly enough, toward the side window too. Marcus muttered under his breath as he stepped inside. The air was musty, and frost clung to the corners of the glass panes. Then he noticed the piano. It sat in the far corner, just where his grandfather had left it decades ago, silent, untouched, forgotten. Except now, one of the keys looked pressed in. And there were muddy prints along the bench. Confused and a little unnerved, Marcus checked the trail camera he'd installed months ago above the mantel. He had originally set it to capture deer and elk, but the memory card was full. Curiosity piqued, he slid it into his laptop and watched the playback. What he saw made him freeze. A bear, a juvenile by its size, had wandered into the cabin. It didn't thrash, didn't destroy. Instead, it approached the piano carefully, pawing it, then pressing a key. Then another. The chords were unstructured, but not chaotic. The bear tilted its head as if listening. It paused, and tapped again. For nearly 10 minutes, it interacted with the piano before lumbering back outside. Marcus replayed the clip 5 times. It was eerie, almost beautiful, and most of all, unbelievable. That night, he uploaded the clip anonymously. Titled simply, "Bear Plays Piano," the video was posted to a small subreddit and quietly forgotten. Until the internet exploded. Within 48 hours, the video was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, wildlife forums. Beethoven bear, people called it. Some were amazed. Others insisted it was fake. CGI, they shouted. AI-generated nonsense. But one woman, hundreds of miles away, sat still in her office watching the clip on loop, her eyes filling with tears. She recognized the movements, the gentleness, the curiosity. It wasn't just a bear. It was him. Dr. Ana Rivera stared at the screen, the video frozen on a single frame, the bear's paw hovering above the piano key, its eyes focused, ears slightly tilted forward. Most people saw a novelty, a viral moment to laugh at and scroll past. But not Ana. She leaned back in her chair at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in northern Idaho. Outside her frosted window, snowflakes drifted slowly. Inside her chest, something stirred, a memory buried deep. Luca. That was the name she'd given the orphaned cub 8 years ago during a brutal wildfire season. His mother had perished in the flames, and he'd been found clinging to a tree, singed and dehydrated. Ana had helped raise many animals before, but Luca had been different. He was unusually quiet, gentle, curious in ways the other cubs weren't. One evening, as Ana cleaned out an old storage shed near the rehab enclosure, she'd left the radio on. To her surprise, the soft classical piano music seemed to calm Luca instantly. He sat still, watching her from behind the wire fence, eyes blinking slowly as the melody floated in the air. From that day on, music became their language. Ana would hum while feeding him. She brought a small keyboard once and played a few notes through the mesh. Luca had pawed the fence in response, not aggressively, but rhythmically. The connection had felt real, even strange. But it hadn't lasted. When Luca was strong enough, the team decided to relocate him to a bear sanctuary in Oregon, a bittersweet day Ana would never forget. He had looked back once, just before the transport cage door shut. That single glance haunted her for years. Now, watching the viral footage, Anna's heart raced. The tilt of the bear's head. The way it waited between notes. The calmness. Could it really be him? She immediately called the sanctuary. An old colleague answered, and the news hit her like a gut punch. There had been a flood 3 years ago. A section of fencing was destroyed. One bear had gone missing. They'd searched for days but found no trace. We assumed he didn't make it, her colleague admitted quietly. Anna felt breathless. Luca had survived, and had somehow found his way to a remote cabin. And a piano? She didn't need confirmation. She felt it in her bones. Anna downloaded the coordinates from the video metadata. Deep Montana woods, near Flathead National Forest. Without hesitation, she packed a bag. Binoculars. First aid kit. GPS. And in a small side pouch, she placed a worn-out music box, the one she used to play for Luca when he was just a cub. It had always calmed him. She locked her office, called in for an extended leave, and booked the first train north. If the world saw just a strange bear in a funny video, she saw a lost soul calling out through music. And she was going to answer. The train rumbled through the snow-covered forests of northern Montana, cutting through a silent, endless sea of pine. Anna sat alone by the window, clutching a thermos of coffee and staring into the white blur outside. Her mind raced with memories. Luca's soft whimper when she left him the first night, the way his paw had tapped to the music box's lullaby, the softness in his eyes. Could a bear really remember? The logical part of her, the scientist, screamed no. But Anna wasn't on this journey for science. She was chasing something deeper, connection, closure, maybe even redemption. After getting off the train at a small outpost town, she rented a snowmobile and followed the path traced by the video's GPS. Locals were still talking about the piano bear. Some laughed it off, others shared eerie stories, sightings of the same bear watching from the woods, never aggressive, always calm, almost waiting. 2 hours into the trail, the weather turned. The wind picked up and the snow thickened, blanketing the forest in silence. Her map showed she was nearing the old cabin. But then, her snowmobile sputtered, and died. No, no, no. She cursed under her breath. Alone. Snow falling. Shadows deepening. With a flashlight in hand, she grabbed her pack and started walking. Her boots crunched softly over the snow. Every few steps, she saw something: broken branches, pressed down pine needles, a familiar four-toed print, bear tracks. Fresh ones. Her heart pounded. And then she saw it. Nestled in the clearing ahead, half swallowed by time and snow, stood a rickety log cabin. One wall was partially collapsed, but the roof held. A long-forgotten piano sat by the frosted window, half covered in snow, just like in the video. Anna approached slowly, breath held. She pushed open the old door. A low creak echoed through the silence. She stepped inside. And there in the corner, beside the piano, were fresh claw marks, a few broken pine cones, and a large paw print in the dust, followed by another. She knelt, running her fingers across the keys. The piano was real. Out of tune, but intact. A soft wind creaked through the beams. Anna opened her pouch and took out the music box. She turned the crank, let it play. The gentle melody floated through the cabin like a memory brought back to life. Then, a crack outside. She turned toward the door, heart in her throat. In the clearing, standing just beyond the tree line, was a bear. Massive. Silent. Watching. Anna didn't move. She slowly knelt down, kept the music box playing. The bear stepped closer. No growl. No threat. Just curiosity. Recognition. Anna's eyes welled with tears. It was him. The forest around the cabin seemed to hold its breath. The snow had stopped, and the world had gone still, as if waiting for what came next. Anna remained on her knees, the music box still spinning in her gloved hand. The melody faltered slightly, then continued its gentle lullaby. The bear stood just yards away now, massive and powerful, its dark eyes locked onto hers. But there was no fear in them, just a strange, quiet focus. "Luca," she whispered, almost afraid to speak the name out loud. The bear's ears twitched at the sound. For a moment, he simply stood there, listening. Then slowly he stepped forward, one heavy paw crunching into the snow. He walked not with the lumbering charge of a wild animal, but with a sort of careful familiarity, as though each step was testing memory. He stopped just short of the cabin's broken doorway. His breath puffed into the cold air, visible in rhythmic clouds. Anna dared not move. Then, he turned. Not away from her, but around the cabin, circling toward the rear. Anna stood, cautiously stepping to the broken window to watch. She saw him pause beside a fallen log. With a sudden movement, he lifted one massive paw and nudged it aside. Beneath it lay an old leather satchel, one she recognized instantly. It was hers. From years ago. Tears welled in her eyes as she pushed open the cabin door and stepped outside. Luca didn't run. He didn't growl. He just stood there, as if waiting. She approached slowly, whispering, "You kept it." He nudged the satchel gently toward her, then looked back toward the tree line. The meaning was clear. "Follow me." They moved together, not side by side, but not apart either. She followed his wide trail through the pines. The snow was deep, but Luca's steps cleared a path. Occasionally he'd stop, look back, as if checking to see if she was still there. They came upon a grove of broken tree stumps, deliberately cleared. In the center stood a structure of sorts, a half-covered wooden log, with a flat surface that looked eerily like a bench. And next to it, a crude structure of metal pipes and wires. Anna gasped. It was another piano, one someone had tried to build from old junk and scrap. Out here. In the wild. Had he? She moved toward it. The wood was scratched. Some keys were missing. But others bore signs of wear, even polish. Luca stepped forward and with shocking precision, tapped one of the makeshift keys. A soft, broken note rang out. Then another. Anna covered her mouth. It wasn't just a coincidence. It wasn't instinct. This bear remembered music. Not just the sound, but the feeling behind it. She stayed near the grove for hours, watching him tap the keys now and then, sit near the logs, or just stare at the sky. She noticed how the space had been cleared, how he kept returning here. This wasn't just territory. This was sanctuary. That night, Anna set up a small tent at the edge of the grove. She didn't try to touch him. Didn't approach too fast. But Luca never once acted like a wild threat. He simply watched. Under the stars, she played the music box again. And from the darkness, somewhere beyond the logs, she heard the quiet echo of his claws brushing the piano keys. Not random. Not chaos. But rhythm. Memory. And heart. The sun broke through the trees the next morning, casting long rays across the snow-blanketed clearing. Anna awoke to soft, deliberate notes drifting through the cold air, slow, uneven, yet unmistakably melodic. She crawled from her tent, heart pounding, and there he was. Luca. At the crude forest piano again. One massive paw hovering over the makeshift keys, the other resting on the worn bench as if he truly belonged there. He pressed a key gently. Then another. Anna approached, cautious but calm, crouching just a few feet away. "You remember," she whispered. "You really do." She took out her phone, not to go viral, but to document this miracle for the world to see. For the skeptics. The scientists. The doubters. As she recorded, Luca continued tapping notes. Sometimes slowly, sometimes in bursts. But more than the music, what stunned her was his expression. His eyes were not blank. They shimmered with something between focus and feeling. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the old photograph, the one she always carried. It showed a much younger Luca, a cub barely the size of a large dog, sitting beside the piano back at the sanctuary. His paw reaching for the keys while Anna knelt beside him. She placed it gently on the piano's edge. Luca noticed. He leaned forward, sniffed it, then looked directly at her. A long moment passed between them. A silence full of memory. Anna stayed with him for days. She set up camp and began recording everything, not just the music, but his behavior, his resting habits, his choice to stay close yet never aggressive. It didn't take long before she noticed a pattern. Luca only played when certain things were near. The music box. The smell of lavender from her satchel. The sound of her humming. These weren't random reactions. These were emotional triggers. One afternoon, As she sat beside him humming an old lullaby she used to sing at the sanctuary, Luca began tapping the keys in perfect time. Not just sounds, rhythm. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She sent the recordings to her university contacts, to wildlife rehabilitation centers, to anyone who would listen. Most responded with disbelief. Some dismissed it. But a few, the ones who truly understood animal intelligence, replied with urgency. One reply stood out. This could change how we understand animal cognition, memory, emotion. Please document everything. This is historic. On the fourth night, a small group of park rangers arrived. Anna had notified them of her presence to remain legal, but what she didn't expect was their awe. They stayed silent as Luca played a few soft notes. One ranger, a grizzled man named Hal, whispered, "In all my years, I've never seen anything like this." Another murmured, "It's like he's grieving. Or celebrating. I don't even know." Anna didn't try to explain. She simply turned the music box again. Luca responded instantly, stepping toward it, head tilted, ears perked like a child hearing an old bedtime song. The men didn't laugh. They didn't scoff. They watched in reverence. That night, they helped Anna move her tent and gear to a safer area. Luca remained near the piano, lying beside it like a loyal companion. They all agreed on one thing. This wasn't a trick. It wasn't a fluke. It was real. And deeply human. Days turned into weeks. Word spread quickly, not through sensational headlines, but quiet ripples among wildlife circles, psychology departments, and documentary filmmakers. The forest remained peaceful, the snow beginning to melt as spring approached. Anna kept a respectful distance, returning each day with supplies and soft conversation. Luca didn't flee. He waited. He played. One morning, she found him not at the piano but beside the river. He stared into the water, watching fish glide beneath the surface. His paw dipped in gently, not to catch, just to feel. Anna sat beside him and whispered, "You don't have to prove anything anymore." That evening, she set the piano music box on the piano's edge, opened it, and let it play through fully. Luca approached one last time. He touched a key with a paw, then another. A simple three-note melody. Then silence. And with that, he turned and walked away. Anna didn't cry. She smiled. She understood. Months later, the footage would be turned into a short documentary. It wouldn't break records. It wouldn't go viral. But it would touch those who mattered, the curious, the compassionate, the ones who saw animals not as beasts, but as beings. Luca was never seen near the cabin again. But rangers reported sightings of a large bear who acted strangely calm around humans. Who once stood beside a child's campsite and listened to them play a small keyboard toy, then vanished silently into the woods. Anna continued her work in animal cognition. She spoke softly, showed the recordings only when people were truly open. Some laughed. Some called it fantasy. But others wept. In her lectures, she'd often end with the same message. What if memory is not just survival? What if it's connection? What if the music we teach, the kindness we give, doesn't disappear, even in the wild? She kept the photo of Luca by her desk, framed in simple wood. And whenever she heard a distant wind passing through the trees, soft, rhythmic, almost like a melody, she'd pause. Smile. Listen. Because somewhere in that forest, a piano still sat. Weathered, cracked, but still whole. And maybe, just maybe, its keys would echo again. Not all stories need words, and not all intelligence needs a voice. Sometimes, it takes a piano and a bear to remind us that memory, emotion, and connection go far deeper than we think. Luca wasn't just a bear who played piano. He was a reflection of the bonds we form, the kindness we share, and the echoes we leave behind, even when no one's watching. If this story moved you, share it. Let others believe that compassion changes lives, even in the wild. Speech balloon, would you recognize an old friend if they came back with paws instead of hands? Bell, subscribe to BearSoul Stories for more real, emotional wildlife journeys that restore your faith in connection, memory, and second chances. Red heart, like if you believe animals remember love. Loudspeaker comment, music never dies if this story touched your heart.